Okay, I think we're ready to roll. Is that right, sister? Okay, let's do this. Welcome, everybody. My name is Chris Felton, hailing in from Colorado, and 51. I'm a 24-year financial services entrepreneur. Just released my brand new book, Think and Grow You, how to get out of your own way and level up your life. And I'm super excited to be with you guys today and share some things that have made a huge difference in my life. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where events are unfolding in front of you and you're like, how did I get here? And it was the lowest moment of my life. And it wasn't a dream. It was a nightmare for me, but I'm in the kitchen having a conversation, in case my wife is listening, to my second, current, and last wife, Marlo. But we're having an argument, and she's getting really upset with me. And I'm like, why is she getting so upset with me? What I'm asking her to do for me is, I think it's a reasonable request. My back was against the wall financially. We were newly married. And my wife had said, you're my soulmate. I've been waiting for you my whole life. You would think she would just step up and help me. Before she met me, she had totally sworn off guys forever. She just resolved to have 12 cats and and stay single forever. But obviously she met this guy and it transformed everything. But she's getting really hotter by the moment. We're about to begin the fight of our lives. And I turn my head for a second and I see her purse fly over my head. Like, I don't know why women's purses are so big, right? It was like 20-pound purse flew over my head, landed. Women are pissed off if they if they throw their purse at you. But it landed, stuff landed everywhere. My wife's like 5'1". Everyone in my office is scared of her. Volcanic Marlo's not very fun. But she didn't just throw her purse at me once. She picked it up and she threw it again. She picked it up. She threw it again. She threw it at me 3 times. I love my wife, but I did not marry her for her hand-eye coordination. She kept missing me, counting on our fingers. And why is my wife so mad? Well, she's mad. We're newly married. The honeymoon is now officially over. She's mad because she walked into a situation with this guy that was not what it appeared to be. I looked successful. I had lots of trophies. I could talk a lot and give a lot of speeches about being successful. But the reality was I was completely broke. I was $250,000 in credit card debt. She didn't know that when she married me. How did I get there? I basically laid down in my divorce because I felt so guilty about the divorce. My kids were super small. My ex-wife picked up and moved from Colorado when my youngest was 1 month old. My oldest was 3 years old, and moved to Atlanta, Georgia. She got half my business. I'm a financial services entrepreneur. I signed a stupid office lease, 6,000 square feet that I couldn't afford. I'm just making bad decision after bad decision. And my wife can't believe it because I'm a financial advisor. I'm a CPA, and you would think I'd learn how money worked. And so the best financial decision I ever made was I gave up control financially of our household to my wife, Marlo. And that's when she first realized that it was a mess. And we sat down. She tried to rein in our spending. She introduced a 4-letter word to me called a budget, which I know it's not a 4-letter word, but it seems like a 4-letter word. And I just wasn't getting it. And so the reason my wife threw her purse at me, the reason she's so upset in this moment was I had to pay my ex-wife $5,200 the next day in alimony and child support, and I'm out of money. Out of money. No places to borrow. I'm out of savings. My wife, good with money, had a separate savings account because she was smart enough not to commingle money with a broke guy. And so my grand plan of how to pay my ex-wife the next day was I had to come home and convince my wife, Marlo, to pay my ex-wife. I had to convince my wife to pay my ex-wife. Has that ever happened in mankind history? I'm laughing at it now. And people are like, Chris, you got some pretty big cojones to ask that. You must not be a very smart man. And that's why she threw her purse at me. And so we're having a fight. She's counting on her fingers, listing all the things she doesn't like about me, all the things she's frustrated about me. And then I just said, well, if it's so bad, why are we still married? And so she went upstairs to figure that out. Should she stay or should she go? And there I was alone again. And it was the awakening of my entire life. And all I could literally see were dominoes falling in my life. I could see my first marriage totally failing because I expected it to fail. And we'll hit on this point later in the talk. We don't get what we hope for. We get what we expect. My kids were little. I was too broke to fly from Colorado to go see them in Atlanta, Georgia. And, where's dad's beginning to turn into who's dad? I'm drinking too much. I'm a total mess. The financial stress is physically impacting my wife. And I realized I was the common theme to all the problems. The common denominator to all the problems was me. And I just, in that moment, realized I had to wake up. I had to wake up and I had to change. I had to quit living in hopium, which is where most people live. They live in hopium. They are hoping the outside world is going to change while they fiercely insist on remaining the same. And I call that rearranging the furniture on the deck of the Titanic. It doesn't really matter what you do to that deck furniture, that boat's going to go down. And I had to take 100% responsibility for my life. And people don't want to do that. It's too easy to play the victim game and just blame outside circumstances. Oh, it's my ex-wife's fault. It's the economy's fault. It's the team's fault. It's this fault. It's the president's fault. And it's just easier to have validations, justifications, and excuses. It's easier to feel powerless. It's easier to play the victim game, but I couldn't continue to do that. I had to own it. I had to own my results. And what happens is most people don't want to feel bad about themselves. So they don't want to look at their results. And if you don't look at your results, then they get worse and you don't want to feel bad. It's just this vicious cycle and it doesn't work. And so I call it the ostrich approach to life, and it didn't work. And so right then and there, I'm like, that's it. I got to change. I got to grow. And I connected the prices that other people were paying for me wanting to stay the same. We normally don't change because we want something. We normally change because we want to move away from pain. And when I connected the price that all my family members were paying, everyone around me, the price was too heavy. And so the next day we came together, and nothing happens without my amazing wife. And in her moment of intense stress and pain, it would have been really easy for her to focus on the negative things in me and just move on down the road to the next relationship. But she didn't. She focused on what was good in me. She focused on the things that she loved about me. And what that did was that broke my self-sabotaging behavior around relationships, where we'd hit some adversity, I'd find what was wrong in them, and then I'd go searching for this, I call it unicorn relationship that requires no work and everything's just sunshine, lollipops, and roses. But no, because she started focusing on the good in me, I focused on the good in her. And she said, well, we're not getting divorced. We're not declaring bankruptcy. We're not getting jobs. We're going to figure out our business. She's like, I'm going to reach out. So we had a couple things working for us. One was we had access to wealthy mentors. And these are people that had wealth in all areas of their life, not just financially, just amazing world-class people. And she's like, I'm going to figure out what they do, what they think. Our first book, Couples Money came from that. And she was kind of like, then what are you going to do? That's what her finger felt like. Chris Felton, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm going to figure out how this keeps creating this. And I'm not interested in changing. I'm committed. And most people are interested in a great life. And one of the craziest things that our world lives in today, especially this world of social media, is this belief that we can get something for nothing. And we can't. And when you're only interested in a great life, you'll hit a roadblock, you'll come up against some adversity, and then you'll do what most people do. You'll take a chicken exit, you'll quit, you'll move on to the next thing, and you take your old self and the new opportunity, end up getting the same result. But most people aren't really committed. And I said, I'm committed. And she's like, what does that mean? I'm like, I'm committed to changing. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to go to what I call the mental gym every single day. Some people go to the physical gym every day. We shower every day. We eat every day. We brush our teeth every day, but we have to go to the mental gym every single day and work on our mindset and mentality. And I'm like, I'm going to do that. And she's like, what do you mean by committed? And I'm like, well, you know how an Olympic athlete treats their sport? That's how I'm going to treat my personal growth and development. And, one of my favorite quotes from Mel Robbins is, I did that. And the change didn't happen overnight, but it happened over time. And my wife and I came together, and we'll talk about some of the things that we did. But what happened to us was just a jaw-dropping financial transformation. We took our income up to, our business up to 7 figures. We eliminated the debt. We saved a bunch of money. We experienced some massive financial relief. But most importantly, I transformed spiritually, financially, physically, relationships, became kinder, became better. And I want to also, communicate that I'm not a guru. I'm not speaking to the group today, as someone that's arrived. I don't think we ever do that. One of my favorite quotes in my book is, we're a miracle and a mess at the same time. I'm just like everybody else, but what makes me different is my 100% absolute commitment to growing and changing. And so we're going to talk about some of those things today. So the problem that my book solves is stuck. And we as humans get stuck. It's okay to get stuck, but it's not okay to stay there. And the reason I wrote the book is, having been a human for 51 years and been an entrepreneur for 24, I know what it's like to get stuck. I know what it's like to live in fear, doubt, and worry. I know what it's like when you feel like you're doing everything possible and nothing changes. It's so frustrating. And having coached thousands of entrepreneurs over the last 24 years, it's frustrating as a coach to watch somebody get so stuck that they feel that quitting and giving up on their goals, dreams, and aspirations is really the only way out. And I can empathize with that, because I was so close to doing that very thing. But instead of quitting, I made the commitment to grow and change. And so I invested tens of thousands of dollars on mindset, mentality, and coaches. I invested thousands of hours. And so the reason I wrote the book is I want people to invest, and I do the talks and the keynotes and the workshops, is I want people to invest a micro fraction of the cost, hopefully invest a lot less time, learn from my mistakes, and get better results than I do. And so how we get unstuck is there's some components to that. Number one is we have to humble down. And our ego is not our amigo. And our ego and us as humans don't like to be told that what we're doing is not delivering. But we have to humble down. And I worked with a coach for 4.5 years, world-class, financially independent. And anytime I would fight him and I would lose and I would get out of humility, he would say, well, Chris, based on results, how is your way working? Hated that question. Based on results, how's your way working? Not too well. So maintaining an attitude of being, humble is gigantic. Number two is we must be willing to change. It's not even optional. I start my book with one of my favorite quotes from author Jeff Shore. He says, a life spent seeking comfort results in an entirely uncomfortable existence. A life spent seeking comfort results in an entirely uncomfortable existence. And people are addicted to comfort. The masses and the middle class are addicted to comfort. It's not a good addiction. And so in nature, trees are either growing or they're not. The grass is either growing or they're not. We as humans are either growing or we're not. There's no definition of comfort in nature. If you're seeking comfort, you're in decline, you're in decay. You must do the work. The next is you must do the work to change. But the last thing, and I'll wrap my talk up with it, is the work is going to be worth it. And so in my book, there's 5 different pillars, and we're not going to have time to cover all that today. There's 5 different pillars that's necessary to change. The first pillar is getting out of our own way. What does that mean? Getting out of our own way means we must become aware and recognize self-sabotaging patterns that continue to things happen. We have a similar thought, similar feeling, similar action. We get a similar result. We stay stuck. Nothing changes. Know thyself. Tons of amazing action steps and things to do to become aware of that. The second pillar is we have to shift. And so shifting means instead of taking that familiar unconscious action, we intercede and shift. And I'm going to cover my absolute number one go-to shifting strategy today with you guys. So I'm excited about that. Third is relationships. Everything we want in life comes from and through people, and we must have that. The fourth is the actual execution and the game plan. Right thinking is good. Working on yourself is good, but you must take action whether you are ready or not. There's a lot of people in this space. They're personal development zombies. They're just taking in a gob of information, hoping that it sticks, not really changing anything. And my superpower is taking some things and applying them immediately and sticking with it until I see a change or a habit transform. And then the last is really the clarity and the dream of what it is that we want. And so that's the last pillar of the book, but that's really where I want to go start today, is really helping people understand that you must know what you want. You must have clarity of what you want. And it's probably the most beat up topic in personal growth and development. I can't listen to a podcast with people saying, oh, you got to know what you want. You got to know your why. You got to, I've been blessed to have, incredible coaching and mentoring. And I would be sitting in these amazing conferences. The most successful person would come up and they'd be like, you got to know your why. You got to know what you want. You got to have clarity. And I'd sit there and I'd write my notes down and I'm like, oh, I got to know my why. I got to be clear. And then I would walk out of the conference and then a squirrel would run by me. And I'd be like, wait, I'm going to go catch that squirrel. Cracking myself up. I'm going to go catch that squirrel and then I'll get back to getting clear. I didn't really chase the squirrel, but that's what we as humans do. Or as my mentor says, Chris, quit chasing wild asparagus. But literally, I'm going to go over here. I got to solve all this. I'm going to get, once I'm done solving that problem and doing this and doing that, then I'm actually going to sit my butt down and get clear on what I want. And as I was writing my book, I have a world-class mentor. He's a self-made billionaire, unbelievable guy. And I was telling him about some of the things I was doing with the book and all that. And he said, hey, man, he said, most people are dream flat or dream dead. Dream flat or dream dead. And that made me think. And he even asked me, he's like, I know you're not dream dead, but are you dream flat? And I'm like, what do you mean by that? He's like, what's your top 25 dreams that you have? And I was like, whoa, 25. I'm like, I have a few. And he's like, dude, start your top 25 dream list. He's like, I'm 71. I've been dreaming more than ever, man. You can't ever not stop dreaming. You got to be dreaming. So I've been challenging, as I've done about 70 some podcasts this year. And I'm challenging you. What's your top 25 dreams? Get your list going. Start. You don't need to get, I'm up to 22. I've been on the list for about 6 weeks or 2 months now, actually. It's not about getting to that list, but it's, man, what are my dreams? What are my top 25 dreams? And then I was just thinking about, where do dreams go? Because when I was a kid, I had dreams. I think we all had dreams. And then what happens to them? Where do they go? And I think in our lives, we have this quadrant of our lives called important, non-urgent. And important, non-urgent quadrant, there's lots of things that fall over there. Our health, relationships, spirituality. In my industry, money. It's one of the reasons why 90+% of people retire broke, is money's never an urgent thing. These are things that aren't hard to deal with. It's just easier not to deal with them. And then something like health, money, whatever happens, and then it moves into that urgent, important quadrant. And unfortunately, there's very little that we can do about it at that point in time. And so we have to attend to that stuff. And so we spend our lives dealing with a lot of urgent stuff. A lot of it gets wrapped up in this weapon of mass distraction that we all have. And then what happens is these dreams just kind of fade away and they just kind of go away and we lose sight of them and we get really, really busy. And so high performers and world-class thinkers aren't better. They're not. Am I still on? Hello. Hello. They are not more high performers and world-class thinkers are not more talented. They're not smarter. They're not better. They're just more clear. And I just used to all the time, people are like, how are you? I ask people today, how are you? And they're like, oh my God, I'm busy. I'm so busy. Oh, woo, busy. Woo, I'm so busy. I call it woo busy. And this was many years ago. I was in the airport talking to one of my mentors, who's now super world famous personal development guy. And we hadn't connected, and we just kept playing phone tag and going back and forth. And we finally connect. I'm in the airport. I'm like, how are you? And he's just like, oh man, oh dude, I've just been so busy. And then he goes, man, that's so lame. That's so lame to say I'm busy. It's just ridiculous. It's also sending a message to you that you're not that important. It also sends a message that, please, God, universe, whatever you believe in, don't send me any more blessings. My plate's totally full. I can't take any more on. I'm busy. And he said, I'm not going to say it anymore. And I'm like, dude, I'm with you. I'm not going to say that anymore either. And so I stopped saying it. And it's lame. It's a lame excuse. People use it all the time. And it also says that I'm not really clear. And so once again, I was busy. I was solving problems. I was a total freaking mess. financially. I'd heard all these talks on clarity. And then finally, it took a purse flying over my head from my wife to wake me up from this hypnotic state, this hypnotic trance that us humans live in. 91% of our thoughts a day are the same as they were yesterday. If we want to change our life, we have to change our thinking. And so after my wife and I came together, and it was a mess, and she showed me, how bad it was financially. And my normal brain was, she's like, hey, okay, we got to get a plan pulled together. And high performers know that goal setting is an emotional thing. People that struggle in the masses think that goal setting is this logical format, this logical steps that you go through, and it's all left brain logical stuff. And it's not. And so we set a goal. Once again, we're $250,000 in debt. It's a freaking mess financially. We're leaking $3,000 to $4,000 a month. And we sit down and I'm like, what do you want? And we took the time. And she said, I want $100,000 saved in the bank. You might as well have just been asking me for $10 million. I never saved that amount of money before. It literally seemed like Mount Everest. And I was like, well, how am I going to get there? But this time was different because I was studying personal growth and development. I was studying how the world-class people thought about their goals, dreams, and aspirations. And if your vehicle to get you to where you want is a Ferrari, the Ferrari is worthless without gas in the tank. Gas in the tank are your compelling emotional reasons about why you do what you do. And so for an hour, instead of talking about the game plan, we talked about why. Why does it matter? Why do we want it? I said, I'm sick of fighting with you around money. I don't want to have another financial conversation with you around a stressful financial conversation ever again the rest of my life. I have to see my kids. They're little. They're growing up without me. I believe this is getting handed to us because we, I don't know, I'm supposed to grow from this because, my family had been broke for generations. Maybe, this is I'm having the adversity happen to me to develop the muscles. How you develop muscles? It has to face some resistance. So we spent an hour talking about why. It was very energizing. And then we did what was really important is we identified the feeling that we were hoping to achieve. Everything you do in your life, you're hoping to get a feeling. And we wanted financial relief. We wanted financial relief like oxygen. And that's the feeling I was after. Now, we game planned, we goal set, we sat down, we set a weekly meeting, right? Are we close to our goal? Are we further away, right? We had accountability, we had systems, we had strategies, tactics, and processes, but we had our juice. We had the gas tank in the Ferrari. And it didn't happen overnight, but it happened over time. And we blew past that and many times past that, but it was huge. So you have to get clear as you're listening to this. Grab your weapon of mass distraction and schedule time with yourself. Don't schedule over it, and sit down and really think about, what do I want? What are some dreams that I want? Why do I want it? And your ego is going to fight with you. Stay with it. And then after about the first 10 or 15 minutes, it's going to be transformational. So you do that. So what stops us after we do that? One is what's called the cursed who's and the cursed hows. I got this from Mike Dooley. The cursed who's and the cursed hows. How am I going to get there? Who, how, all that stuff. And what happens is, especially for us, is we were at base camp looking up at Mount Everest, and it was just too far. And what happens is we get into overwhelm, and the masses try to create all this change. They try to change 25 things at once. They get super overwhelmed, and it doesn't work. And the world class knows that these small steps compounded over time is really, really substantial. And so, a captain of a sailing ship, if they're on a 100-mile journey, they can't map out how they're going to get there, right? They need to pull up anchor, leave the dock, course correct, okay, and adjust the sails along the way. And what happens is people get overwhelmed. They try to plan everything. They sit in their garage waiting for all the lights, the stop lights to turn green before they leave. You just can't do it. So you got to get clear on what you want. You got to get clear on why you want it. You need to pull up anchor and you need to leave. And the only way you get clarity is by movement. Forward movement is it. That's it. Pick the least suckiest path, get moving, course correct. It's super powerful. So don't worry about who and how. Don't worry about how you're going to scale the mountain. Just get to base camp 1. Journey of 1,000 miles begins the first step. Body in motion stays in motion. These are small things I teach in the book, and your brain feels awesome when it's in movement. It feels awesome when it's in movement. That's when the dopamine hits in your mind happens, is when you're on the path going to where you're going, not necessarily hitting the goal. The second thing that stops us is we don't expect it to turn out. You don't get what you hope for, you get what you expect. And I ask people all the time, in your heart of hearts, what are you really expecting to happen? This is a great question to sit down and journal on. What are you really in your heart of hearts expecting to happen? What are you expecting to happen in your life? And if you look at your life right now, for most people, they get what they expect. I ask people all the time. I coach a lot of entrepreneurs, and it's like, okay, what are you really expecting to happen? They get the income they expect. They get the success they expect. So part of the stuff I share in the book is the personal development plan to level up your expectations. And the reason people procrastinate is they're actually expecting it not to work out. Think about that. They're actually expecting it not to work. Okay. So you don't get what you hope for, you get what you expect. And then the third thing is they just take feedback from ridiculous people and they allow it to impact them. They care way too much about what other people think. And I recommend you get my book and you read the chapter on approval addiction. We're all approval addicts. It is something that impacted me in such a negative way, and I didn't even know I had the problem. Okay. So anyway, don't worry. Take the first step, move forward, level up your expectation, expect it to work out. Anything you've ever crushed in your life, expect it to work, right? That takes some work to level that up, right? And then associate with the right people. So set the goal. Now I'm on the path and I'm working with a coach, but I also engaged one of my good friends who was I called him like Yoda. And I was looking for strategies, right? Because I had to really double my income just to stay married. And we had this goal of saving money. And so I'm a CPA, I'm a left brain guy, and I pay him $375 that I didn't have. And we did about a 90-minute session. And he's just, he's asking questions. He's going back and forth with me. He kind of would do this like Yoda, like, kind of think through and like meditate on my questions. And we get done. And he's like, what's your goal again? I'm like, well, I need to double my income and I got to save this money. And he said, okay, well, got it. Okay, I got it. So what's the amount of money you need to make? I told him, and he said, well, all you got to do is just say, what if I cash flow this? What if I make this amount of money? What if I have, $100,000 saved? What if I'm already financially independent? What if I'm happy? Say it hundreds and hundreds and thousands of times a day and do that. I was blown away. I was like, what are you talking about? I just paid you $375. Are you a fraud? Like, he's like, dude, you're looking for the complex answer. You're looking for it to be difficult. No, just do it. Based on results, your way's not really working. Just do it, man. It's a challenge. Here's the thing. When we say an affirmation to ourselves, our ego goes, no, you're not. No, you haven't. And it rejects it. He's like, your subconscious mind can't fight a what if statement. So just say, what if, what if, what if? Just do it, man. Just do it. And then get back with me in 90 days and let's go. So I'm like, all right, I got nothing to lose. So what if I do this? What if I cash flow this? What if, over and over and over and over and over again. And the power of that repetitive affirmation is eventually it penetrates the subconscious mind. If you say it with emotion and feeling, and then you're like, I actually do that. I'm the type of person that does that. And the results show up. What if? Super powerful. I've talked about this probably for the last 10 years all over the United States. It is a strategy that you can grab right now and you what if it. The story in my book is an entrepreneur that was, on the verge of divorce, same financial problems. He was in a class that I taught the what if concept. He's like, it's kind of like when Spider-Man discovered he had webs, bro. That was the tactic. And he took his income up 5 times. He says it helped save his marriage. He's got 2 kids today. He what if. He just kept saying it over and over and over again. And the power of it is when you are what ifing like that and you are thinking about the possibilities and you're thinking about the things that are possible in your life. Now you're able to see things differently. You're able to pull in things that are going to get you towards your goal. So step 1, you got to get clear on what you want. You got to get your dreams. You got to pick one goal to run after. You got to collect those compelling emotional reasons and then use the what if to apply. Okay. Clarity. What if? Third, this is a game changer. I was working with my coach 4.5 years. It was our first week working together. And we got done. And he said, hey, I got a homework assignment for you. And I was like, okay, coach, what do you got? You need to forgive your ex-wife. What? She's horrible. What are you talking about? I told you how horrible she is. Why? Come on. I thought you were on my side. So I start arguing with him and he says, hey, Chris, based on results, how's your way working? I'm like, all right, why do I need to forgive her? He said, if you don't forgive her, you'll be broke your entire life. Okay. I didn't fight with him on that. I was broke. I hadn't forgiven her. I'm like, well, how do I forgive her? And he said, when we're done, I want you to grab a pad of paper. I want you to write her name at the top. And I want you to write down everything you appreciate about her. And I want you to do that exercise every single day till you no longer have to. And I was like, oh my Lord. Okay. So there I was, holding this piece of paper, like gripping it, staring at it, trying to find something I appreciated about her. And then I realized he's so right. Because what I teach in the book is it's not time management, it's energy management. And we often have massive energy leaks resenting other people. So at the top of the hour, I wrote, she's a great mom. She's a world-class mom. My kids are 22 and 19 now. Unbelievable. I hit the jackpot. I hit the dad jackpot with my kids. So I did the exercise the next day. I found one more thing. Then I did the exercise the next day. What do I appreciate about her? Then I was like, man, maybe I'm supposed to be learning something that I'm going to be teaching other people. And then I did it. And then about 3 weeks into it, I didn't need to sit down and do it anymore. I had a pretty good list of about 8 to 10 things. I just work through my mind what I appreciate about her. And the power of the mind is it starts rewiring. My whole perception of her started changing. Then I started texting her, Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday, Happy Mother's Day. Thanks for all you do for our kids. We never had this like real, forgiveness conversation. I forgive you, you forgive me, but thoughts have wings and they fly out. And then, my kids are big baseball players in Atlanta, and I'd, stand next to her at games and get caught up on our lives. And one time I was leaving the baseball field, and this dad on my son's team walks up to me and he's like, "How do you do that?" I'm like, "How do I do what? How do you stand there and talk to your ex-wife?" Like, it's like, I can't stand my ex-wife. I mean, they basically were at like opposite ends of the stadium. And I shared the exercise with him, and he looked at me like I was an alien. And I'd seen so many miracles in my life. I could do a whole talk on it of just what forgiveness has done for me and my family. And it's transformational. So I just always resolved, whether I was on a big stage or doing a webinar, I was going to talk about it. And this was a couple of years ago. I was coming off stage in Texas doing a workshop, and this 60-year-old guy walks up to me. He had this heavy beard, kind of had his hat pulled down. I'd spent 4 hours teaching him and his group. I thought I did a great job. And he said, "Hey, that was all really good, but that last thing, forgiveness. So you're telling me I need to forgive my ex-wife?" I'm like, "Dude, how long has it been?" He's like, 30 years. I don't know, man. How are your results working based on results? How's it working for you? He's like, "I get it." And he went out to the parking lot. I was talking to some more people. And then he came in about 30 minutes later, and he was just, his eyes were puffy. He had cried. I mean, his face was all red. He looked 10 years younger, by the way. And he just looked at me and just shook his head, came up, he kissed me on the cheek. He gave me a big hug, and he left. I never saw him again. Who do you need to forgive? Who do you need to forgive? Step 3, make that list. Start doing it. Start releasing them. It's huge. And once again, I got exercises in the book, and it's transformational. And so you got to do it. We all want peace, and the path to peace is through forgiveness. There's no other way. You got to do it. And it's a lifelong project. It's a lifelong project. You'll never be done with it. And the last thing I want to leave with you guys, and we'll wrap up. Hopefully this has been of value to you, is the work that you must do to take your life to the level that you deserve. You got to do the work, but the work is going to be worth it. I think a lot of people struggle with that. They're like, "Well, what if I do all this work and then it doesn't work?" It will. It's a law. You have to stick with it. And as I said, in my darkest moment, I had a lot going against me, but I had some things going for me. And one was, I knew that whatever I had to do, I would do it, and the work was going to be worth it, because I started the habit in college of asking successful people, was it worth it? I asked hundreds of people that question. Was it worth it? And what was amazing about that question is they never were confused by what I was asking, and they never hesitated, and they emphatically said, yes, it was worth everything I had to do, meaning it was worth everything that they had to go through to create the successful life that they had. And my coach just said, "Dude, you got to do the work every single day." I got lots of techniques in my book about how to grow, how to change, how to do that stuff. Your life just, Chris, it kind of looks like a hourglass of black sand right now. Yeah, it's kind of dark, but you just got to put a little piece of gold in there every single day. You got to work on you. You got to execute your plan. You got to keep your word. You got to get outside your comfort zone. You got to do the things that you know you need to do, but just drop a little piece of gold in there every single day. And then all of a sudden that hourglass will be more gold than black, brother. And just, and it'll work, and you got to trust it. And And I have lots of, it's worth it stories. But this is one of my favorites, and then we'll wrap it up. But as I said, my kids lived in Atlanta. I lived in Colorado, and I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm super grateful that my wife Marlo said, "Yeah, I know it's important for you to go see these guys every 4 to 5 to 6 weeks and participate in their lives, and be there for them, and call it hand of God, call it whatever you want." But I'd always seemed to show up at the right time and witness. I miss things, but I witness a lot of amazing things. And we have a great relationship, still to this day. I'm going to see him next week. But my kids got my ex-wife's brain, thank God. Super smart kids. They're unbelievable. But it was the senior year of my kids, of Caden, my oldest. It was the fall of senior year. And he applied to all these schools, but he really wanted to go to Vanderbilt. And, Vanderbilt's got like a 7% acceptance rate. It's like top 15 school in the nation. It's just an unbelievable school. And so I was flying in, I landed, and my oldest Caden texted me and he said, "Hey man, Dad, I find out tonight if I get in." And I'm like, thank God I'm here. And my youngest had a basketball game. And so we're at the basketball game. And he gets the email, and he got in, and some poor kid was shooting a free throw, and I just went went nuts, and everybody in the gym's like, "What's wrong with this guy?" And I couldn't believe it. Right, it was just unbelievable. And then I look over at the gym door, and there's my ex-wife. And she's just in tears, and she's crying because all her hard work paid off, all her just world-class focus support on raising my kids. And I ran over and I just looked at her and I said, "Channing, good for you." And she looked at me and she said, "Nope. Good for us. Good for us." And it was one of the most surreal moments of my life, because all the pain, all the arguments, all the fight, all the just worthless crap that I put her and I through, it was worth all the work I did on myself. In that moment, it was worth everything I had to read, all the seminars, all the stuff, everything I had to do to experience that. And it's worth it. And I've created the habit of just recognizing it was worth it. And it's really all about growing ourselves and changing other people's lives. And you will not find fulfillment in stuff. You'll never find fulfillment in stuff. It only comes from growth and contribution. It's the only place you're going to find fulfillment. So you got to grow yourself. You got to commit to it. You got to know that it's going to be worth it. And as you grow you'll pour into others, you'll make an impact, and the ripple effect is transformational. So it's worth it. Humble down. Okay. Be willing to change. Do the work, and understand that the work is going to be worth it. So thank you very much. Thanks for having me, sister. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully there was some value today and has impacted people's lives.